Hey class, welcome to your 10.4 lesson when I'm absent. If my voice sounds nasally or I have to blow my nose at some point, it's because I'm still dealing with a cold as I record this, so just keep that in mind. And also remember, we've done this before. Anytime in the video where I ask you to pause and go do something else, please go and do that other thing and then come back to this video. So just keep that in mind. You should probably have your journal with you and a pencil. You probably don't need the whiteboard necessarily, but you should have your journal and a pencil and your calculator as well so you can follow along with what we're doing. So for instance, here at the top, if you guys could take a second to do the bell work, that would be great. So go ahead and pause. All right, I'm assuming you've done the bell work, so let's go over it. We learned in class on Wednesday, when I was still here, that the area of a parallelogram is pretty easy to do. Its area equals base times height. Excuse me, I put a capital B on accident. It's lowercase b. So we do the base. Here is 14. The height is 5. 14 times 5 is just 70 inches squared. Super easy bell work. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a problem. I'll have a separate video where we can review the homework, so you'll be watching that. If you want to pause now and go watch the homework review, that would be a good idea. All right, let's keep going. Looking at our calendar, today we're doing 10.4. Of course, it's a weekend, so there's no homework. And then also on Monday, we have a quiz review. On Tuesday, we're actually going to pause and not take the quiz right after the quiz review because, one second, I got to blow my nose. Excuse me, sorry. Hopefully, you can just turn the audio off for those parts. Anyway, so on Monday, we'll do the quiz review. On Tuesday, we're going to pause, not do the quiz because 8th grade will be gone, actually. So just 7th grade, we'll do a fun apartment activity. And then on Wednesday, we'll take the quiz. And then on Friday, as you can see, we're going to have Pi Day, which is exciting. It's the last day before spring break, so I thought we'd do something fun, and we'll do stuff related to pi, which actually has to do with what we're learning today. Today, we're learning about circles. Circles have a lot to do with pi. You've probably done circles before. You probably did it last year and the year before that, where you had to find the area and circumference of a circle. So a lot of this lesson should not be very new for you guys. All right, reviewing what we've done so far in this chapter. We're at 10.4, which means we're at the end of the first part of the chapter. I know I've mentioned that. The first 4 sections that we're going to be taking a quiz on is all the 2D figures, and then the next 4 sections, when we come back from spring break, are going to be all the 3D figures. So we've done triangles. We talked about the inside and the outside of the triangles, scalene, isosceles, equilateral, acute, obtuse, right, all that stuff. Then we went over polygons. Polygons are really all the shapes that have 3 or more sides. Remember, they had to not be curved, and they had to be complete. They couldn't be like a gap where maybe you had something like this, where it looked like it was going to be a square, but it wasn't complete or something. That would not be considered a polygon. So we went over polygon. Oh, and we talked about concave versus non-concave. So a concave shape would look something like this. And then a convex shape would look something like this. That ended up being a circle. But you saw what it was before it straightened out. So that was polygons. Then we focused in on quadrilaterals specifically. So all the 4-sided figures, a quadrilateral was a 4-sided figure. And we talked about how there's 360 degrees inside a quadrilateral. We solved problems based on that. We talked about rhombuses, rectangles, squares, parallelograms, and trapezoids. Then we focused in on specifically trapezoids and parallelograms. We found the area of a trapezoid and a parallelogram like we just did for our bell work. And finally, we're going from 3 sides to all the sides to 4 sides to 2 specific 4 sides to no sides, or in one sense, just one side. We're ending with circles. All right. So go ahead and get these formulas in your notes. You got the circumference of the circle has two different formulas, and then the area of the circle has one formula. Once you get those in your notes, go ahead and get this one question in your notes. Why do students confuse the formula for area and circumference? Once you have that question in your notes, go ahead and pause this video, go back to LMS, find the link, and watch our guy, our boy, Rob, back at it again with another Math Antics video. Go ahead and watch that now and then come back to this video. Okay, I'm assuming you've watched Rob's Math Antics video. Of course, he's done an amazing job as always. He's just the best. And you should be able to answer this question. Why do students confuse the formula for area and circumference? Well, if we look over here at our formulas, you got 2 pi r and pi r squared. Those both have the same elements. You got a 2, you got a pi, you got an r. You got a 2, you got a pi, you got an r. So it's the same elements, they're just being used differently. Our r over here is being squared, while our r over here is being multiplied by 2. We know those are two different things. 3 squared equals 9, while 3 times 3, or 3 squared equals 9, and 3 times 2 equals 6. They're two very different things. So we don't want to confuse these two. And we also know there's two formulas for circumference, because you could use diameter, but you could also use radius. Remember, radius is half a diameter. So let's get into it. It's pretty easy stuff. First, let's just find the circumference, and then we'll focus on area. So for circumference, you should be using either one of two formulas. If they give you the diameter, like in this first problem, they gave us the diameter. They gave us the full length across the circle. Therefore, they gave us the diameter. So we know our formula is c equals pi times diameter. That means we're going to do c, oops, that's a really ugly c. We're going to do c equals pi times 8. And then I'm going to use 3.14 just because I'm using my phone's calculator, but you can use the pi button on your calculator. There's a little pi button. If you can't find the pi button, just use 3.14 times that by 8. You get 25.12 inches squared. Remember, area is always squared. Over here, a little different. They gave us the radius. They only gave us half of the diameter, which would be the radius. So our formula now is c equals 2 pi r. So we put 2 times pi times 14. So on our calculators, you can do 2 times 3.14, or the pi button, times 14, and you get 87.92 centimeters squared. Now, if you're using the pi button, you're going to get a slightly larger answer than me. I'm using 3.14, but it's okay. That's not a big deal. We'll be okay. All right, let me go ahead and erase that. Actually, I'll just keep it. I'll just keep going. All right. Go ahead and pause and solve both of these problems, and then we'll come back together and solve them together. All right. Looking at our first problem here, they gave us the diameter, which means we'll use c equals pi times diameter. So c equals pi times 12. 3.14 times 12, and my calculator gives me 37.68, which says round to the nearest tenth, so 37.7, and it's inches squared. And then they gave me the radius, so I'll do c equals 2 pi r. c equals 2 times pi times 18, and my calculator, 2 times 3.14 times 18 is 113.04, which would just round to 113 centimeters squared. Remember, if you're using the pi button, you're going to get a slightly different answer, and that's okay. Okay, now we got to find the area of the circle. Remember, for area, we only use radius. So notice how the first one gives us radius. That's good. So our radius, or our area formula is a equals pi r squared. So we do pi times 3 squared. Remember, PIMD asked me we have to do 3 squared first. So in my calculator, I don't need to use a calculator. 3 squared is 9. So pi times 9. So 9 times 3.14 gives me 28.26, which rounds to 28.3 meters squared. I just realized that I was doing, so for area, I can do meters squared, right? I squared it. over here, I accidentally squared it, and I shouldn't have been. Those are one-dimensional, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And then get rid of that. So I did those for all of those. That was dumb. Sorry about that. So get rid of that, and get rid of that. Okay, let's get back. All right. Now we got, they gave us the diameter when we only want the radius when we're finding area. So what do we need to do? Well, remember the diameter is twice the radius. So to get the radius, I just need to divide this by 2. So I do 8 divided by 2, and I get 4 is going to be the radius. So if I did the radius right here, that would just be 4 inches. So pi times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. So I got pi times 16. 3.14 times 16 is 50.24, which would just round to 50 inches squared. I do squared because it's area. Area is squared, not those other ones that I was doing earlier. Okay, go ahead and pause and do these problems, and then we'll go over them together. All right, so first one, they gave us the radius. That was nice of them. Makes our life easy. So we get pi r squared, pi 7 squared, pi times 49. 3.14 times 49 in my calculator gives me 153.86 or 153.9 centimeters squared. The second one, they didn't give me radius, so I need to divide it by 2. So that halfway point right there would be 9 feet. So you get pi r squared, pi times 9 squared, pi times 81. 3.14 times 81 gives me 254.34. So that'd be 254.3 feet squared. Remember, if you're using the pi button, you're getting a slightly different answer. All right, now these were super easy. Hopefully you thought they were pretty easy too. We're just plugging things in our calculator. And again, I think you've probably done this in years past, so nothing here has been new. Let's try and up the ante a little bit. Given the circumference of a circle is 63 feet, what is the diameter? What is the radius? So we're kind of flipping it on its head. We're used to being given the diameter or the radius. In this case, we've been given the circumference. So let's think of our formula. C equals pi times diameter, right? That's our circumference formula. Well, they gave us C. They said it was 63. So now we're solving for our diameter. That's a little weird, but it's just a one-step equation, right? We've solved many one-step equations before. We're trying to get the diameter, this variable d, alone. In order to get it alone, it's being multiplied by pi right now, right? That's multiplying. So to get it alone, we're going to divide by pi, and that'll cancel it out. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So 63 divided by pi. So we can put that in our calculator. 63 divided by 3.14 gives us 20.1 if we round it for our diameter. Now, it also said what is the radius, right? It says, what is the radius? So if we know the diameter is 20.1, then the radius is going to be half of that. So it would be 10.05, which would also just be 10.1. Go ahead and try that on your own. Same problem, although it looks like it didn't ask for diameter, it just asked for radius. So if that's the case, we can kind of skip a little bit and do circumference is 2 pi r. You know circumference is 70. Try and solve the rest on your own. I'll give you a second to do that. Go ahead and pause, Oops, sorry, I got a timer going. Go ahead and pause. All right. So first, we can do two things. We can divide by 2 first, or we can divide by pi first, kind of up to us. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2 first. It's going to cancel. I get 35 equals pi r divided by pi. Cancels that. I end up with 35 divided by 3.14 equals 11 point, looks like 1 or 2 equals r. All right. All right, same idea. Now, they've given us the area. So usually they give us the radius. That's what we were doing earlier. But now they gave us the area. So we plug in 72 for area, and now we're trying to get r alone. Now it's a two-step problem. So we got both an exponent and multiplication, right? You got this exponent right here and multiplication right here. So first we're going to get rid of the pi. Get rid of that pi. 72 divided by 3.14 gives us 22.9 equals r squared. Now it's a one step. To get that r alone, we do the opposite of squaring, which would be the square root. That gets r alone. And then we got to put in our calculators. What's the square root of 22.9? That's going to give us a big decimal. 1 second, let me get my calculator set up here. So 22.9, take the square root of that, you get 4.7. So we'll go 4.8. 4.8 equals r. Okay, oops, that was a practice. I should let you do that on your own, but oh well. All right, at this point, go ahead and do the quizzes, and then just follow the rest of the directions on LMS.